Thanks everyone for downloading this episode of the Nerd Ball Podcast. I appreciate you all being out there, downloading, subscribing, sharing, whatever you're all doing. Really helps the podcast. And I think this is my first week of only putting one out. Like I said on Monday, it's a lot of time right now, and I think if I continue to at least put one out, obviously that's still good, and maybe I can devote a little more time to the social media aspect of it, that the YouTube shorts, the TikToks, all that stuff. And maybe it can grow that way. It's just a lot of time. I really enjoy doing it, but sometimes I don't want to sit on my couch when we're watching a movie and I'm editing videos because I'm a little bit behind because of all the other stuff we're getting into. So I'm still gonna be putting episodes out. I got probably a month's worth of episodes banked right now, so that's good. I'm staying ahead of it. Again, hopefully that will help make a better product. Not necessarily the interviews. I think the interviews are really great and they're always going to be that way, but the social media and the other videos and the TikToks, all that will be a better product. So I appreciate everyone. The only reason I'm going down to one is just because it's a lot of time and work. So if this podcast ever makes it big and I can actually hire people, then maybe we'll go back to two. But right now, this is it because it's just me over here at the Nerdball Podcast. But I did think of not doing it at all. But you guys are there and listening, so I appreciate you all. Enough rambling for this episode. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. So you guys will love this podcast, especially if you're around Perrysburg, as he is a known Perrysburg figure. Always on the sidelines and and inside the gyms taking pictures of all your kids and student athletes. Ken was great, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to this podcast.
Hello, I'm Ken Falls, part-time photographer for Perrysburg High School, and I'm on the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Perfect, Ken. Ken, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
You're welcome.
I've known you specifically through taking pictures at all our athletics, and I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say thank you. That what you do, I was looking through my phone today. I don't think I would have any pictures of me coaching football on a Friday night if it wasn't for you.
Oh, thank you. One of the driving things is actually over the years is the affirmation I get from people. That's a good feeling for anybody.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. It's one of the things I tell other people. Why have you done this so long? I said, getting the affirmation from people is really nice, as well as what a wonderful Perrysburg family I've come to know. Most of them just casually, but it's, I've never had once, I was thinking about this recently, a student be disrespectful to me, and the parents are just so encouraging. I've never really had a negative experience, about my photography and being around there. It's just, it's nice. It's really nice.
Well, I mean, photographers in general, but specifically you is obviously because that's who I'm talking about. Like, you don't know a lot of times, and maybe it's the good ones, like we don't even know you're there. Like, we see you, we know you're there because we know you, we say hello and
Sure.
that kind of stuff. But you're taking all these pictures, and sometimes kids will pose, and those are some of my favorites too, is because they know you, so like, hey, check it out. I love those.
I actually like in view of all the sports that I shoot, I actually like the photos that are more human interest that I take. If I catch like I caught a football player, I don't know if it was Gherkin, a lineman, might have been hugging one of the players in one of the playoff games at the end after it was over.
Yeah.
And like that's like really a cool picture to me.
Yeah.
In spite of all the action photos I take, I really seek out the human interest things because sometimes they tell the story of the game.
Yes, exactly, because it is full of emotion, and
Yeah.
you can get so much out of one picture, and you do a great job doing it. Like I said, I've many of my profile pictures have been your pictures.
Thank you.
It worked out really well, and I know my wife likes it too because my son's out there. So every once in a while, him and his buddies get in those too. So those are saved in our
Well,
phones as
I
well.
talked to your mom too. She's
Yeah,
yeah, she's a great lady. She's yeah.
yeah. She loves going to those games. She used to go to after I graduated. She used to go to football games because I used to be an official. And she used to wear like a sweatshirt that says "I'm here for the official" or something like that.
Yeah.
Which could put a target on her back. But she's been her and my dad and my youngest sister. They go to a lot of those things, and it's cool because like they go because obviously they want to watch football. But my sister's always taking pictures of me and my mom and everything, and so
Sure.
it's cool to have that there as long as well as my wife and my kids. It's a whole family thing, and I appreciate that, like
She's a
having
cool
them there.
mother. She's a cool mother. You
She
can
is.
tell.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's super busy all the time. Just
Yeah.
she has to keep moving, doing things. But yeah, she always makes times for me and my grandkids. But yeah, she's cool. Um, Ken, what the question I always ask people at the beginning, and maybe a little bit different for you, but I always ask people, what is something you've been nerding out about? Something you're super into, something that gets you away from your job, a
Wow.
hobby of yours.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
maybe it is photography, but maybe there's something else that we don't know about
Yeah.
Ken Falls that you like to do.
I thought you might ask that.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is not too sensitive an area, but I'm really a man of faith,
Okay.
and people probably wouldn't know that way back. And I wasn't preparing for this professionally, but I've actually went through a certificate program at a seminary,
Oh.
and this was many years ago. And currently, I'm taking online classes in areas of biblical study. In the last 2 years, I've taken uh, 4 Greek semesters and other classes relative to studying the Bible. And
Hmm.
so that sounds like a really weird hobby, but I enjoy really reading theology and more hands-on, like how to study the Bible. And
Hmm.
so I actually enjoy putting in hours studying a passage of scripture. I've tried to really improve my skills at interpretation, and I help some people at our church, like in preparation with their sermon
Hmm.
and evaluating it. So there's a whole nother side of me that, uh, like today, I might work on a passage for a couple hours. Some of it's part of my classwork, but I still enjoy it. So that's probably the central part of my life and something that I actually do to get away from other things. It might
So
not.
so when you say work on a passage, what does that mean?
Well, yeah, real specific. It might mean actually, I'm trying to apply skills so I can actually um, determine the author's flow of thought,
Okay.
big idea, and I do such things as when I was taking Greek and was part of the class. We would, if you remember, if you ever had, I don't know, I did. I'm old enough that we used to diagram like in junior high English, do English diagramming where you take a sentence and put the subject, on a line and divide it, and you list the verb and so on, the direct object.
Yeah.
And so we did some of that with Greek. And at the moment, I'm doing that with just phrases, English phrases of a sentence, sort of diagramming them. It was like a schematic where you can see what the main thought is and then what might be supplemental thoughts or things that are modifying. And so doing some of that technical work, um, helps me to try to get a feel for what the author was saying because we live in such an individual uh, focused world nowadays. It's often what does something mean to me,
Hmm.
and ultimately you want to get at application. That's the big important purpose of, if you were studying the Bible and wanted to get something out of it, is what does it mean to me? But sometimes you impose your meaning because you're biased, or
Yeah.
you just in your mind randomly associate things. But I try to myself learn skills that will first determine what the author was really saying to his audience at a point in time, whether it be the Apostle Paul or whoever. And then from there, let's make applications of how it might apply today, rather than me superimposing a meaning into a passage for no good reason, really.
And that's got to be hard because everybody has their bias and what does this mean to
Yes.
me, and it's something, it sounds like it's something that you are really honing in on, because we as just people don't do that.
We can't escape them. We live in a Western world, and you sort of just got to try your best to not superimpose. And probably what I don't want to go too far with this, but probably what drives me a lot is I think I probably should have been a journalist in college, learning that rather than accounting, and because I like to dig to the bottom, and I don't really want is in regards to religion. I don't want someone necessarily just influencing my thought process and saying this is the way it is. I sort of want to discover on my own, what, for instance, an example of a passage of scripture, what does that say? And I don't want to have a template put over me that says this is how you should believe, or so it sort of drives me to be a little bit independent with the text and not just take some tradition and superimpose it on my beliefs, type of thing.
Okay, yeah, because it's have you been in the faith for since you were little? Because I went to Catholic grade school from kindergarten to 8th grade, and then we moved to Perrysburg, and it was kind of up to us what we wanted to do. But for almost 9 years, I went to church every Thursday with my school, and then I was a server too, so I did that on Sundays. Or on Saturdays when my parents would remember. There was a lot of times I was not there because my parents, because I would not remember or my parents would not remember. But
this does go way back with me in answer to your question.
Sure.
I guess we referred to it as a spiritual renewal or rebirth when I was about 19 years old.
Okay.
I had lost my mother when I was 14 to leukemia, and my dad got remarried. And so we had a large family before that. I was the oldest of 6. And then when my dad remarried, my stepmother's first husband had died suddenly, and she was younger than my dad. And they got married, and she had 3, and then they had one together. But anyway, through that process, she come to know Christ. And I really wasn't a seeker, to be very honest. I was more of an agnostic in my first year of college and later in high school. And she just basically showed me a real life, what a real spiritual Christian life is. And for some reason, she asked if I'd be willing to hear this guy out. And he came over to my house, and she arranged everybody to be gone. It was just him and I, and he was just basically sharing some Bible verses from the Bible and how I could really know Christ personally. And it just came to birth that evening. I wasn't really a seeker, but I just felt I wasn't a perfect individual in the past, nor am I now. And I just felt I didn't really truly have forgiveness for some things, and sort of just reached out to God in that moment, and it became very real after that. I can't explain. I opened up the Bible, and it was interesting and stuff like that. So that's what goes all the way back to that. When I was 19. Yeah.
19. Okay. And that's obviously a important time in your life,
Sure.
Not even including the fact that your mother passed away, but it's already like a big time, those teenage years, and then deciding after high school what to do, and I guess if you can check some stuff off, it makes it a little easier to go forward and say, yeah, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I believe, and all this kind of stuff. It kind of feels like you're going the right direction.
Yeah, it gives you some moorings, if you will, in your life to build around.
Yeah. You mentioned, well, first of all, did you grow up around this area?
I did, and I've lived in this area my entire life.
Oh, okay.
Grew up in Toledo, around Toledo Hospital.
Toledo Hospital, okay. What high school did you go to?
I went to St. Francis.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if it was one of those, not to make you feel old, but if it was one of those that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, no, but I lived a block and a half away from DeVilbiss.
Oh, there you go. All right.
the other more portion of 74, 75, the state came and bought our house by eminent domain, and so
Oh no.
we moved closer to Toledo Hospital,
Oh, okay.
right by Ottawa Park. But yeah, I remember going to DeVilbiss football games with my dad at 6 years old.
Wow. Yeah. My only memory of DeVilbiss is I used to play because I grew up in Toledo also, right down the street from Rogers High School.
Oh
And
yeah.
we used to play on the youth football team, me and my older brother, and our weigh-ins were at DeVilbiss. And
Okay.
I remember my older brother, like loved football, super competitive, and we had a weight limit, so he had to get
Sure.
under the weight limit, and he put the garbage bags on, was running around, trying to lose this weight on weigh-in day, and he stepped on the scale. All he had left on was his underwear, and he was still like half a pound or something. So they put a towel around him, and he was like, I'm taking everything off. They put a towel around him, he weighed in, and then immediately ate a bunch of stuff and then threw up.
Sounds like a wrestler.
Man, he never wrestled, but man, he was super competitive, and that's the one thing I like one memory I have, because I was not going to work that hard to lose weight. I didn't care if I ran the ball or not. I was just going to play football and whatever. But he was determined. Yeah. But that is my knowledge of DeVilbiss High School, is being there.
Gotcha.
When you attended St. Francis, what were you into sports? Were you into clubs?
Yeah, my real love was basketball, and I got cut my JV year, so I took up got interested in cross country, and then I stumbled upon tennis, and that's what I'm sort of really proud of. I don't play much of it now, but and they had good tennis teams back then, like St. John's is today, and I literally every day, once I took up tennis, went to Germain Park and play with whoever would let me play with them. I mean, I was bad in the beginning, but I had to earn my stripes, so to speak. I got to play better and better. So I got better. And by the time I was a senior, I got up to first doubles and played some third singles. But I wasn't from a wealthy family that grew up at a country club or anything. Most of the kids on the team did. So I worked too in the summers. And so I'd work, get off at 3, and I'd go to tennis court till 11 at night until they turned off the lights, even if I had to hit against the backboard. I just fell in love with it.
Well, what about tennis that drew you to it?
I don't know. Oh, I know why now that you asked that question. I didn't have really a good and some of it was me a good perspective when I played freshman basketball. Of course, you're on a team, and the season didn't go well for me. And I think in retrospect, as I've been introspective, I think what appealed to me about tennis and cross country was I was the sole determiner of the outcome, whether I succeeded or not. I wasn't relying on teammates. I wasn't relying on a coach that felt I should play or shouldn't play. And I think that's what really drove it as I look back. I wasn't thinking, I don't think, like that back then, at the moment in the mind, but I think deeper as I thought about it later. I think that's why is I wanted to be able to control my destiny in the sport rather than have teammates affect the outcome, or a coach, or a lack of a good relationship with a coach, or something like that. And I think that's what but I stumbled upon that by accident. I just had got my temporary license, and I went, and my mom said, "Hey, we're having dinner. Go pick up your brother at some courts at Ottawa Park." And I say, "Hey, let me try that racket." And I'm like, "This is really a cool sport." Literally, that's how it started with me.
Every job that I've had, they always ask the question on the application or in the interview, like, do you work well by yourself or with others? And most of the time, people do say both, which could be the case. But in your case, like, it's not. It's good to hear, like, hey, I don't work well with others and some things, and maybe basketball was a particular thing, but then maybe if you would have played another team sport, maybe it would have been different because of that sport. But it's good to hear, like, you can acknowledge, like, no, I had to do this for this reason.
And that would be generally true. I think in general characterization of me, that I'm more of a private person, and maybe unless you really spend some time with me, harder to get to know and things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just based on the two things that you do now,
Yes, yes,
accounting and
yeah,
photography are pretty
right.
solo activities.
Yes, exactly. It casts me pretty much who I am. That's why it's interesting. When I do photography, and I've actually done some graphic arts, sometime in my life, doing some newsletters before the internet came and so on for some companies. And it's like I found a softer side of myself or an artistic side, but I still bring that organization to it. If I go
Mhm.
do, and I don't do many, but if I go do a senior shoot individual photography, I prepare for like I would, I don't know, like you probably prepare for football,
Yeah,
you know, practice. I mean, I go out and scout the locations,
yeah,
the shots I want to take, and I even sometimes go as far as marking up which lens I'm going to use. And so I go out a couple of times and make sure, see where the sun's at if it's an outside shoot. And maybe a lot of photographers do this, but the point is that detail stuff
mm.
in the process is as much fun as the event itself sometimes with me.
Yeah. No, like the preparation is a lot of fun, and I think part of it is like, hey, I got to do this. It may be it's fun, but work. But then
Yeah,
if I do all this pre stuff,
yeah,
if I prepare, then
yeah,
the actual event will be a lot more fun.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, you talked about scouting places. At this point, if you well, first of all, how long have you been doing photography?
Yeah, just only about 15 years.
Okay, okay.
I'll give you a little background how I got started. We have two sons, and they went to Otsego High School at the time.
Hmm.
And one of them played three sports there: baseball, basketball, and golf. And the other one had some physical disabilities. He's adopted, but he's achieved a lot. He was in karate and got the second degree black belt.
Hmm.
And so I got interested, obviously, as many parents do. And so uh, after I was done and my son graduated, the one playing basketball and the one 2 years before doing the karate, I said, I really like this sport photography.
Hmm.
and so how can I continue? Well, I had two nephews, uh, my brother closest to me, sons that were playing sports at the moment. They were cousins to my boys, a couple years younger than my boys. And Nolan Falls was a linebacker for Perrysburg, a starting linebacker. This is like in 2009, 10, and 11.
Okay.
And his brother Alan played soccer, and then they both played under still Dave Boyce on the basketball team. And so I wandered over to Perrysburg the next season after my son's ended, about right now, basketball season started.
Yep.
And I wandered in the gym very sheepishly and just stood in a corner and took pictures of them, my two nephews.
Oh, okay.
I started coming to a number of their games. And my brother, who I'm referring to, and their sons, he used to run the Junior Jackets basketball, run it,
Yeah.
along with Chuck Salmon, who was a swim coach at Perrysburg a few years back. And so after a while, people come up to me and say, "Who are you? And could you take some pictures of my son? He's number 33." And then he's got a sister who plays soccer. Could you go to their game? And I had favorable work hours. I started real early in the morning, even though I was an accountant, because I worked for a small company the last 40 years before I retired 3 years ago.
Hmm.
And so I had a schedule where I was getting home at 2:30 or 3, so I could make like all the Perrysburg sports. And so it just blossomed and went, became unbelievable how many different sports I was shooting and getting to know so many people. And that's really how it got going. Just like and to get at the root of it, I think I really like in sports photography the thrill of the moment. If someone's going up for a dunk in basketball, there's a little bit of pressure on you to capture that, with clarity, or on the football field, a one reach catch in the end zone or something
Hmm.
like that. And it's just that pressure. And I've shot a few weddings, and when they're walking up the aisle, you can't mess it up. You just can't. You got to be prepared. And so there's a little bit of that thrill, even though it's a nervous pressure thrill that gets me. And then I'm a sport nut. I just love sports.
Mm.
Like tonight, my wife and I will go to we have a tie to it, a Southview Northview basketball game, and a couple that goes to our church, their grandson plays for Southview. But I've been known, like I went to the Liberty Center Oak Harbor football game after Perrysburg lost the next week. And
Okay.
I've been to football games like at Bryan. I forget who I went and saw when they were in the tournament some years ago. And then if there's days, as much as I take pictures for, like during basketball season for Perrysburg, if I have a free night, I might run to a high school game between St. John's and St. Francis. So I am like really a sport nut. And so it really fits with my interest to do sports photography. And so
Yeah.
I'm probably talking too much here, but
No.
just to give you the the real reason why I like doing is and I love being, as you do, around young people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, I just like being around them.
It's fun to like, because specifically being a football coach, I played football, and it's fun to like see them playing it because I'm done, right? I'm just
Exactly.
coaching. So like
Yeah.
it's fun to see them get excited about all that kind of stuff and just be
Yeah.
involved with that. And
Yeah.
I'm coaching freshman girls basketball right now at Perrysburg, and the
Oh,
same
are you?
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the same thing. Like it's a whole different mindset. It's a different way of coaching. It's a different level of people I'm coaching, and
Yeah.
but it's all the
Yeah.
same. Like
Yeah.
the happiness, the sadness, the
Yeah.
all the emotions are the same, and it's just like it makes me want to do a good job for them, so they don't
Yeah.
feel so they feel happy, and that's that.
It's interesting. I started out in college in education, and then I left it after one quarter. I had a course they called Career Decisions, where they put you in the classroom. I
Mhm.
was in an elementary school, and the teacher gave me responsibilities a little bit. I was just a freshman in college, of like doing bulletin boards. I go, I don't like this, and I don't think I could really earn money in this, so I switched majors. But to go back to tie it in with what you're talking about, so I've taught Sunday school and church, and I love teaching junior high,
Mhm.
and I've taught adults too. But the thing that I like about teaching, I've done some coaching way back, not to your level, but uh, even when I was at St. Francis after I got cut, I coached CYO seventh and eighth grade boys basketball. But the point is I look back now and currently like teaching at church, and it isn't just the teaching that's neat. It's what's behind is the encouragement.
Mhm.
When someone acquires a skill or
Mhm.
sees something like in a Sunday school class, like, oh, hey, you can do this, you can understand this. Or if you're coaching and you bring improvement to their skill or a love for something, even if they don't stay with it, I
Mhm.
think that's so fulfilling. Is that you're really an encourager. I'm not a teacher of Sunday school. I'm an encourager of people. I see it broader.
Yeah, yeah, and you can. I mean, I'm always learning things still too, and I got excited the other day. One of our customer service person at the Metro Parks in my building has to take some time off, and so there's a new person
Hmm.
there that's not used to the building. And I
Yeah,
told her, I was like, Allie, I was like, this is gonna be great. And she's like, yeah. I go, I know you don't know a lot of stuff, but you're gonna ask me a lot of questions, and it's gonna force me to come up with these answers to help you. And
yeah,
maybe some things I don't know about the building, or some things I don't know about programs or whatever happening here. So it's gonna help.
definitely.
It's gonna help me become a better manager here because you'll be
Exactly.
asked a bunch of questions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that's why I always tell the athletes too, like, guys, sometimes my answer is going to be, I don't know. And you're going to be like, wait, aren't you the coach? Shouldn't you know
Yes,
everything? Like,
exactly.
no,
Yeah.
I don't, but I'll get it for you. I'll figure it out.
Well, that's neat. You can be that transparent.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not, if I learned a long time ago, it doesn't matter if it's at work or coaching, like as long as you're honest with them, they'll listen to you and they'll help you too. I had a staff member, I, uh, I asked them. He's my maintenance guy at the parks, and
Hmm.
he wanted a trickle charger for a battery, which I know what it is. You hook it up and you put it on your battery. It's for the winter to make sure your battery stays okay. And
Hmm.
and I asked him, I was like, well, what kind do we need? And he kind of smiled and looked at me. I was like, what? He goes, you don't know? I said, I know what a trickle charger is. I don't know enough about them to be like, yeah, you need this amperage or this size or
Hmm.
whatever. And he's like, oh, I thought you were messing with me. I go, no, I don't know stuff, man. It's okay, He's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if whenever you're messing with me or not. I go, hey, I got to keep you on your toes. I got to make sure you
yeah,
you don't know.
definitely.
So as you I'll go back to college because I have a couple questions about that. So you said
Sure.
you went for accounting.
Yes.
You tried teaching for a semester. You're like, no, this isn't it. And accounting. How did you decide like this is
Well, you have
this
to
is what I
take all
want
the
to do?
prerequisites. I was going to go into business when I switched, and I didn't know what in business. Yeah, I mean, this was my thinking back then. And I said, I took general business class, and I said, well, I don't know how easy I could get a job. This is just general stuff.
Mm.
And I took a couple of accounting classes because in a business major you do anyway. And again, I think because of the detail and I'm very systematic, it appealed to me. And I thought, well, this should be a good career choice, for many years, rather than me have to, I didn't see myself doing sales and some other
Mm-hmm.
things or just
You
general
did,
business. So I wanted to be a little more specific,
and you did it for 40 years, you said?
Yes, yes.
How many different companies did you work for in those 40 years?
Well, I worked for, I actually finished up at night school at the University of Toledo and took a job at the Andersons
Mm.
at Maumee and worked in their grain accounting for 2 or 3 years. And then I left that and I went to this 1 year seminary certificate program, and that was in Indiana. And then I came back and got a company, another job with another Fortune 500 company that makes dental products, the tools that dentists use, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I went to this company I've been with, was with 40 years, was Reliance Propane and Fuel Oil on near Secor and Alexis Road. And I was their controller. And that ties back into the theme we were talking about in the past. Like the big companies had good experiences, especially at the Andersons. But yeah, I don't like meetings and things like that much. Where with a small company that employed at times as many 40 people, so we weren't real small.
Yeah.
I can just walk and go down and talk to the owner.
Mm.
Meetings and time wasted. And
I
again,
love meetings. I don't know why. I love meetings.
well, it'd be fun in sports, I think. But anyway, so I just had more independence in that job rather than being part of a big corporation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's our theme here, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
you have to do what makes you happy,
Yes.
otherwise you're going to dread waking up every morning.
Exactly.
How many people come tax time ask you to do their taxes?
Not many
No.
anymore because I've refused them, but I give a little advice. See, my one son is a CPA now, and so I just give them to him. The relatives ask, and I'll give them a little opinion. But he majors in the tax area within CPA, is a certified accounting firm, and so yeah, he gets them all now, but a number of them. But my wife and I we still do our own.
Yeah. I used to do our own until we bought a house, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to mess anything up. I'll pay someone to do it.
I actually had a part-time job. Earlier in marriage, you're always looking for more money,
Oh, yeah.
and I did personal taxes. For a couple of years for a guy that had a firm, happened to be in the inner city, and so I've done a number of personal taxes. But when I was working the last 40 years in a corporate, I did all the taxes, excise taxes, and everything at Reliance. So I wasn't up as much with the personal. Like if you asked me what the standard deduction would be some year, I probably know it, but I might not. Yeah, and so I was more in the corporate area later in life,
Got it.
but most of the time I just deferred to others because I know it could become non-ending. Doing.
Oh yeah, like oh yeah. Ken did ours. Go to Ken. He'll do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a waterfall.
Yeah, Ken Falls.
I always think it's interesting, and I don't know why, when children do get in the same profession as their parents. And maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's because my mom was a nurse and I could not deal with any of that kind of stuff. And my dad worked in a factory. He worked for GM for 31 years, or 31.3. He always gets mad when I leave out that 0.3. But maybe it's the professions my parents chose, but it's just, it happens quite a bit, and maybe you just can't help but be involved in it as a kid when your parent does whatever they do. I don't know.
My dad worked in business as a purchasing agent for, like your dad, for like 30 years for Dana Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in the business, but he wasn't in accounting. But so I went into business, and my son's in accounting. One of my sons.
Yeah. I hats off to accountants. It's not my. I am not a math guy, and I will gladly pay for someone to do my math for me.
Yeah.
um, after you get out of college, well, you said you lived around here your whole life. I'm assuming you went to college around here too.
University of Toledo, yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
all right.
Yeah.
So after you get out of there, um, was it always a decision to stay here, or is it just easier, or what led to that? Because most
Yes, yeah, I'm a homebody.
mhm.
Yes. Um, yeah, I was going to just mention like my wife was from Warren, Ohio,
Okay.
and she was like transferred here from a big corporation. Um, Eaton, it's called. They used to own Air Equip Vickers and used to be what was it before that here in the area. And so she was transferred here. Yeah, and I've been very involved. This is very unusual from the time I really gave my life to Christ at 19 in one church for 50 years.
Oh, really?
The church has survived. A lot of churches,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, and I'm not and I'm not a practicing Catholic now. I'm in a non-denominational church,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's sometimes it's a long time for a church to be in existence for 60, 70 years like this one. But it's had a good core of people, and I've really wanted to be committed to it, and I'm very, very involved. I'm also the treasurer there, and do a host of things. So that was some of the draw to stay in Toledo, actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Do you um do you travel? Do you like to travel? Because I know some people, you say
I
you're a homebody, but
Yeah,
maybe there's things you like to
I
do.
do, but my wife not as much. We've had a commitment to pets. My wife
Okay.
was really involved, and not so much recently, but in pet rescue. And so we've had like 5 cats at a time and a couple, 3 dogs. And so it's hard to get away.
Mm-hmm.
And she got to know her as she was older, and she had already done a lot of traveling with her job
Mm-hmm.
to Europe and stuff. So she sort of scratched that itch. And then and now we're down to 1 cat and 1 dog. We probably won't have any more because I'm 69 and she's going to be 65. And we don't want to be burying pets, and we do want to do more traveling, but we're more homebodies. But I
Yeah.
probably would travel more than her, but it probably wouldn't be worldwide. I would like to maybe do some more photography trips and stuff like that, and we've done some of that together. But,
Do
yeah.
you have any like bucket list places that you would like to go to?
um a whole nother area that takes up a lot of my time among my many interests. This is I would like to go to the Masters golf tournament,
Oh,
and
yeah.
get tickets to it. I'm always
Yeah.
trying to get tickets, and I've never been in a position with some big corporate company where I've gotten invited or anything like that. Um, but no, not at the moment. I think it would be neat to. I think it would be neat to just travel in Europe. I'd love to visit those countries. Greece,
Yeah.
Italy, any of them, France, Germany, Spain, Portugal. That'd be cool. I'd really like to go to Israel in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not at the moment, but
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
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 So, if there was only one, but the true bucket list would be get to the Masters golf tournament.
Now that I listened to the sports podcast, Ryan Russillo, I think it was Ryan
Oh,
Russillo, maybe,
sure, yeah, yeah.
and they talked about the Masters or going to the Masters, and they're like, does it count if you go to the Masters on Wednesday to see whatever they have going on Wednesday? And half of
Right,
them are like, no, it doesn't count because it's not the real tournament. And half of them are like, yeah, you're there, you're at the Masters,
yeah.
you're still there.
I'd like to just go 1 or 2 days because I'd like to see the finish. You can't really see everything if it's a close tournament on Sunday. I'd like to go for Thursday and Friday and to the practice rounds.
Okay.
And then I would, we'd stay in somewhere in that area in a hotel. I'd watch it on TV the end because I'd like to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a ritual with me, which it is a lot of people in the country to watch the sort of like kicks off the golf season.
Yeah. Do you play golf?
I do. I'm a member at the Legacy. It's just over the line here. I live in Savannah Township now,
Okay.
and I've been a member like 3 or 4 years. And I hate to say I play a lot of golf, sometimes 4 times a week.
But that's all right. I mean,
Yeah, retired, but
yeah.
like 100 rounds. I'm a very busy man. People don't realize it for being retired.
that what I mean, it's okay to still like, I would imagine when you say I'm sorry to say you play 4 rounds. Maybe it's because you say that to your wife. I don't know, but like it's that's what's it's you're retired. Be retired and do what you want to
Right,
do. Yeah.
right. Yeah, no, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I, it shouldn't be my only priority.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
competes with other priorities at times. Um, so
It becomes at times it becomes pretty clear what's your highest priority when you're canceling certain things to do other things.
sure,
You know.
yeah. I
Yeah.
tend to not cancel anything, so I'm really busy in three areas. Really involved with if you will, Christian service, with photography, and
Mhm.
with golf. And then my wife and I recently, when we retired, we joined a club called MVA, of which I'm not going to say his last name, but one of your bosses up the line, Scott, is a
Mm.
member of it and maintains the website and sometimes goes on a walk, but he's still employed full time now at the Metro Parks. And so we're involved with that, and that involves uh, my wife really likes biking, and I do too, but she likes it a lot more. So they have a couple days a week they bike. The club does,
Mhm.
longtime club in Toledo,
What is
and
MVA?
Maumee Valley Adventures, the
Okay.
MVA is, and then they have walks. So we go on a walk every Thursday, and we go to lunch then with the whole group afterwards at a restaurant. So that's got to get fit into the schedule as well.
Well, your retired life is what I'm anticipating mine being. Like
Okay.
I like things to do. I like,
Yes.
making sure we have places to go. And even on a Saturday, my wife, everyone wants their weekends to be like perfect weather. Sometimes my wife
Yeah.
hopes it rains. So I actually sit down and just
Oh,
watch,
sure, sure.
watch TV because I'm always busy and doing something. But I like being that. And even, coaching basketball. This is my second season coaching basketball now. Before that, we'd go to a bunch of hockey games and go down to
Sure.
BG or
Oh,
Tamo and watch
yeah.
Perrysburg.
Yeah.
So there's always something that we're doing. But I like that. Like I want
Yeah.
to, I want to
Yes.
keep doing things.
Yeah, there would be a real problem if my wife wasn't interested in sports. We've been full time, and amidst everything else I do, I make games. Most all the games, we're full time ticket holders for women's and men's basketball at University of Toledo and football in the past, but we've discontinued those. She got tired sitting out in the cold weather,
Yeah.
at night, and so she herself played basketball at Bowling Green State University long
Oh,
before I knew her, and so she's and played volleyball and softball, after college and stuff.
yeah.
Not anymore, but so she has a real, no problem with me going out to games, all the time, and she understands sports because she's played them.
Hmm.
Not football, but obviously played basketball, volleyball, softball, tennis in high school. So um, she totally understands. And when I come home and talk about it, she's right with me as far as understanding the game and everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, to share interest obviously is well, you probably wouldn't get married to begin with if you didn't have anything in common, right?
yeah,
But as you get older and her interest may become your interest and vice versa,
yes,
because you guys love each other and that's what you want,
right,
and so
exactly.
it makes
Yeah,
those things easier. Just I don't know if my wife ever envisioned going to a high school hockey game where we knew nobody that's actually playing, but
right,
that's
right.
what's happening, because
Yeah,
she knows I
yes,
like it, the kids
that's
enjoy it, so
exactly,
and
exactly.
then when we go down to BG, we get campus poly eyes out of it, so it all works
Yes,
out. Yeah.
sure. Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned women's basketball at UT. Did you go to that Michigan UT game?
Yeah, we were there. Was it 3 days ago or whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was I don't know anything about Michigan. I know UT's really
yeah.
good. I don't know anything about Michigan, but that was a blowout.
Yes, it was. And we went up to U of M the year before. It was a home and away contract they had,
Okay.
and they beat them like by 2 or 3 points last year when they were rated 17th in the country. So I don't know. It's just that team that's got your number or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what happened because I expected them to get it handed to them after they beat them last year. It was like a total surprise.
Or at least be competitive.
Yeah, well, we were hoping that because there's 7,000 people there. But we honestly expected them to maybe lose by 12 points or something,
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
And they hammered them by 23 points. What a surprise!
My dad used to take us to women's basketball games. I don't know why. Like
Uh-huh.
but we used to go when we were little. We used to go a couple times a season to go to watch women's basketball
Hmm.
in that arena, and it was my dad likes sports, never played sports. He grew up in
Mhm.
Texas, and then moved here when he was 15. He was a migrant worker. He just never got involved in sports, but he
Mhm.
really likes them. He was my coach of my baseball team. He was always at football games, that kind of stuff. But it was
Cool.
always like this one thing I think about his whole life, and it's one thing I'm like, man, he's really into sports. And I know you don't have to play him to be into him, but normally that's how it works. But it was just
Sure.
a cool thing. Like he still wanted it to take us to see this women's basketball game, or he would take us to Rogers High School play. Like he was always making sure we were like seeing other things and different things, and
That's cool.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
like led to us, wanting to be involved in all these other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Even though he didn't play him, he let you be introduced to him. I
Yeah.
talked to, it's weird when I talked to a few Perrysburg, because I always was very hands-on and encouraged my kids in sports because I liked them.
Hmm.
But I talked to some of the kids, and I'll talk to their fathers and say, boy, you did really a good job, whatever. I'm not going to bring up any names,
Yeah.
but I've had some fathers say, no, I don't play any sports. They got involved because they're friends, and they started in sixth grade or something. And some of them are your starters on football. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, that's really different. And I'll usually, sometimes approach a parent or a mother that way. And it's like, I know nothing about it even. They'll say, and I'm like, wow, how did this happen?
Well, that on the flip side, people always ask me, like, well, what if your son doesn't want to play football? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, then he doesn't want to play football. I'm not going to
Yeah,
be
right.
upset about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the only thing I'll be upset about is if he doesn't have something that he's doing. Like he's just not going to sit at home. If he
Exactly.
if he decides
Yeah.
not to do football, okay, well let's fill that space. Let's see what other interests do you have. Let's do that. But I always talk to when I was the junior high track coach. I coached shot and disc, and I try to get kids to come out and do shot and disc, and and I also talked to him about football. That'd be the same thing. I'd ask like, hey, do you want to
Mhm.
play? You like football? Do you want to play? No, I don't. I was, what do you do? I do soccer, or I do this, or I do
Uh-huh.
that. Okay, cool. That's fine
That's
as long as you're
fine.
doing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Same thing with track. Like my really good throwers in junior high were never they never did it in high school because they were either played baseball or softball.
Okay.
So I was like, well, it sucks that you're not continuing to do this
Oh,
because I really
sure.
enjoyed coaching.
Sure.
You're really
Yeah.
good. I had a girl who in junior high was third in state in junior high, and then
Wow.
just did softball, and she ended up doing both, but was very limited on both. But I like them to just do something.
Yeah. That's
Just be
good for you as a coach to do that, encourage them that way.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like I'm forcing them to like, no, do this, or why are you
Yeah,
even here?
exactly. Yeah, that's not good.
No, it is not. um one thing we talked about before the podcast, and I want to make sure I mention it. I love when people come up to me and talk to me about podcasting or ask me questions about podcasting. And you
Okay.
mentioned your nephew
Yeah.
does a podcast.
Yeah. He's got the Jacob Buer show.
Okay.
And he just started. I don't know how he started. I can't remember if I've asked him. I think between his sophomore and junior year in high school. He's from this area.
Okay.
And they since moved last 5 or 6 years, job moved by his dad near the Indianapolis area. And this is where he started his podcasting. And he's had over like 100 shows.
Nice.
Um, and just to mention some of the people, and I don't know how he got him again, but I should ask him. He's interviewed Jerry Glanville,
Yeah.
since our time. So I went up to Jerry the other couple of games ago. I said, "Hey, my nephew is Jacob Buer, and he's interviewed on my podcast, I think, a couple of times."
Oh, nice.
So I go up to Jerry. It's funny. Jerry says, he says, I really like Jacob. And Jerry, being older, isn't, really literate with the internet and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says, Jacob is so good at finding people for his podcast. I hit him up for phone numbers to try to get people I want to, like he needed to get in contact with Deion Sanders or someone. He goes, so whenever I need to hit up someone, I go to Jacob. I thought that was so funny. He's interviewed Jim Leyland from Paris.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's interviewed Lou Holtz. I'm giving you some of the famous ones. He does students at his high school. Well, he's in college now at Purdue with freshman year. So
Mm-hmm.
he does a wide gamut of people, race car drivers and everything. He's done former Apple CEO John Scully and
Wow.
former vice presidential candidate Mike Dukakis. So he's just a young kid. And it tells on the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
It's probably like The Hive or something. I've listened to him. And but I don't know how he gets these guys, but he gets them.
How do you?
I just thought I'd mention it because
Yeah,
it's an affinity to you. It's
I love that kind of stuff. I'm always intrigued by it, and I think first of all, just so I have it right, how do you spell his last name?
Yeah, that's Buehrer, and it's literally Jacob _Buer _show, and I think an underscore after the W on show.
Okay.
He's been doing
Yeah.
it since like 2020 during the COVID. I think he
Awesome.
got it going.
Yeah, you mentioned how he gets all these guests. One thing that I learned is all you have to do is ask.
Sure.
And that's the hardest thing for me is asking someone and afraid that they'll say no. But what does it matter? Like, okay,
Yeah,
well,
really.
thanks for your time, and you move
Yeah.
on to someone else.
Yeah.
I tried to reach out to, or I did reach out to a couple people that that are famous enough where they send like, well, contact my representative,
Oh, wow.
but
I
but it
imagine
did,
he runs into that too. I didn't ask him, but
yeah, it didn't work out ultimately, but I got to the point where I did talk to them, emailed a couple times, and then you just don't hear from them anymore, and whatever, it is what it is.
I'll bet Lorenzo that he has an advantage when he's younger yet, because he probably literally gets somehow their phone number, I'm assuming, and talks to them one-on-one, and they can tell he's a young kid in high school. I'm doing this. They probably figure it's related to high school, and
Yeah.
I'll bet that helps. They don't have to go through those people that shield those most famous people. I'm sure he runs into that, but as he gets older, if he continues to do it, he'll probably run into that more, where now he's this innocent, junior in high school. Now he's a freshman at Purdue doing podcasts. So how can you refuse him?
You're right. You're right. Maybe I should just tell, like, hey, a famous person, I make zero money doing this. I'm in my basement.
Yeah. Yeah, just give him a story.
Have you been on his podcast?
I have not.
See, well, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
I got Ken Falls before Jacob
exactly.
Buer. Yeah. Before we go, Ken, I do want to say again, and we can talk about it if you want. You had mentioned that coming up, you may not be as many sporting events and stuff, but I do. Whenever that day comes, because we're all waiting for it. Whenever that day comes, of you not being there will be a sad day. Not just because you take such wonderful pictures, but also because it is nice. Like, it is one of those people you're searching for on a Friday night. Like, oh, where's Ken? I want to make sure to say hi to Ken. That kind of stuff. So again, I really appreciate all the pictures you've taken and over the years, and some of those I would never have any of that stuff. Some of those moments with my son, or when I'm talking to all the water boys, all these things that I can point to, look at later in life. So thank you for that.
You're welcome again.
I will put your, if you don't mind, I'll put your website in the show notes so people can check out all your
fine.
all your photos and stuff that you've done. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. We got to know each other.
Tremendous. Yeah.
A lot of laughs together.
Stay busy. Don't get in trouble, but keep staying busy. I think that's what helps people going is keep moving around, stay busy. Hopefully you get to the Masters someday. If I ever get to the point in my life where I can help you with that, I'll make sure I can get you something. You can go get one of those.
If I'm allowed to post this on my social media, I'm hoping someone will step forward. And they listen.
I make TikToks of these podcasts. So I'll make a TikTok. See if we can get you to the Masters.
Am I allowed to put the link on?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay,
when I post it, I will. You can share it. I'll tag you. You can share it and everywhere. Okay. So you'll be good to go. Yep. All right, Ken. Well, thanks again.
That was wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Keep at it.
Oh, thank you.
You always have a great smile.
Oh, thanks, man.
It must be an encouragement as a tight ends coach.
We'll see you.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Thanks again to Ken Falls for coming on the podcast today. One of the best photographers out there. Like I said in the podcast, I wouldn't have any pictures of me coaching on Friday nights if it wasn't for him. Great guy. Great to come on the podcast. Great of him to come on the podcast. And just, hearing how he got his start. 40 years in accounting also, which isn't my cup of tea, but apparently it was his. But yeah, thanks again to Ken Falls. thanks to all of you for liking, sharing, subscribing, listening, downloading the podcast. Keep it going for me. Keep that YouTube. We're creeping up towards 150. Excuse me. Keeping up towards 150 on the YouTube subscribers. So keep sharing that. And just keep listening. Reach out to me at the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions or know someone that wants to come on the podcast. As always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.